In a quiet Los Angeles apartment, Keanu Reeves sat alone reading a well-worn book on philosophy. Despite his fame, he found peace in simplicity. A knock at the door broke the silence. It was a courier, delivering a single cream-colored envelope with a royal crest. Inside was an unexpected invitation to a gala hosted by the British royal family. It wasn't a movie premiere, charity fundraiser, or industry event. This was something different. The gala would honor individuals who had impacted the world through kindness and integrity. Confused but curious, Keanu raised an eyebrow. Who would think to invite him? He wasn't flashy. He avoided the spotlight. Yet, someone had seen beyond the Hollywood headlines and recognized the quiet generosity that defined his life. Stories of him giving away millions to crew members, riding the subway, and helping strangers had clearly made it across the Atlantic. Still, he hesitated. The red carpet was never his comfort zone, especially when it came with tiaras. After a few moments of silent contemplation, he smiled gently. Maybe it was time to step out of his quiet corner of the world and accept recognition not for what he played on screen, but for who he was behind it. The following week, Keanu arrived in London under the radar. No entourage, no paparazzi chase. Just a man in a hoodie and jeans, rolling his suitcase through Heathrow like any other traveler. He checked into a modest hotel, greeted the staff kindly, and declined room service. The next morning, he stood in front of the mirror with an open suitcase on the bed. Inside, only a few neatly folded outfits. But for tonight, he'd packed something special. A classic black tuxedo. Not tailored by an elite designer, but timeless and understated. He didn't need to impress. He just needed to be himself. He looked at his reflection. The face that had graced posters and billboards now carried lines of wisdom and sorrow, but it also held something else, grace. He adjusted his collar, tied his bow tie with quiet precision, and let out a breath. No scripts, no character, just Keanu. The royal gala was held at Kensington Palace, bathed in golden light. Red carpets stretched like rivers of velvet. Luxury cars lined the entrance, each arriving with guests in glittering gowns and polished shoes. A sleek black vehicle pulled up quietly. From it stepped Keanu, his tux crisp, his demeanor modest. Cameras paused, confused at first. Then the whisper started. "Is that Keanu Reeves?" Some flashed photos. Others ignored him. To many, he was out of place. He didn't arrive with diamond-dripping celebrities or billionaires in designer suits. He walked alone, his hands loosely clasped, nodding gently to the staff at the doors. As he entered, a few people turned. Some nodded politely. A few smiled, but others looked skeptical. Keanu moved with the calm of a monk, unaffected by the judgments around him. For him, this wasn't about showing off, it was about showing up. Inside, the ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and gold trim. Classical music floated through the air, and laughter echoed off marble floors. Keanu stood near a floral display, sipping sparkling water. Across the room, a woman in a glittering emerald gown laughed with a group. Lady Eleanor Hartwell, a well-known socialite, narrowed her eyes toward Keanu. "Look who they let in," she whispered with mock shock. "John Wick in a tuxedo. I hope no one's dog is in danger tonight." The group chuckled. It wasn't just a joke, it was a dig. In a room full of elite pedigree and curated image, Keanu stood out like a whisper in a thunderstorm. More guests joined the murmurs. What's he doing here? Did someone mistake this for a film premiere? Still, Keanu didn't react. He simply continued sipping his drink, eyes taking in the architecture. It was as if he'd heard it all before, and decided long ago not to let it change him. "Imagine inviting an action movie actor to a royal event," she said, swirling her wine. "What's next? A Fast and Furious reunion at Buckingham Palace?" Her laughter was sharp, and though others chuckled nervously, discomfort hung in the air. Keanu remained composed, not out of ignorance but out of wisdom. He knew the difference between power and grace. He'd met people with more wealth and less humanity. He turned slightly, making eye contact with one of the guests who had laughed. The guest quickly looked away, ashamed. That's the thing about kindness, it can disarm cruelty with silence. As the laughter faded and the orchestra resumed its gentle melody, Keanu quietly walked toward the balcony. He didn't need to defend himself or respond. His silence was louder than any insult. He leaned on the railing, overlooking the palace gardens bathed in moonlight. For Keanu, this wasn't a moment of humiliation. It was a reminder of how far he'd come. He had been mocked before, he'd faced grief, loss, and loneliness, and still chose to show kindness. This moment too would pass. Unbeknownst to the gossiping crowd, a few palace staff nearby had been observing. They'd seen countless celebrities throw tantrums or demand attention, but Keanu, he simply watched the stars. One of the staff whispered, "He's more royal than most of them in there." Inside, a figure had noticed Keanu's quiet exit. Princess Amelia, an intelligent, compassionate member of the royal family, watched the scene unfold from across the room. Unlike the others, she wasn't blinded by glamour. She was drawn to sincerity. She'd heard the mockery, and it unsettled her. Her family valued diplomacy, but she valued character even more. And something about Keanu's quiet restraint spoke volumes. Without hesitation, she excused herself from her group and glided across the ballroom floor. Her presence was regal, but her heart was warm. "Mr. Reeves," she said softly, approaching the balcony. "May I join you?" Keanu turned, slightly surprised. He offered a small bow. Of course. Their eyes met, no pretense, no performance. Just two souls sharing a moment beyond status or fame. The two stood side by side, gazing into the night. Amelia asked questions not about his movies, but about his views on life, loss, love. Keanu, caught off guard by her curiosity, spoke openly. He shared how he'd lost his best friend River, how grief had shaped his empathy, and how he found peace in small, quiet acts. He spoke about giving, not for show, but because it felt right. Amelia listened intently. For once, she wasn't being flattered or fawned over. She was learning. "I read somewhere," she said, "that you once gave your Matrix salary to the costume and effects teams." Keanu smiled. "They were the ones who made it beautiful. I just followed the choreography." Their laughter was gentle, the connection sincere. And inside, the ballroom had grown quieter. People were starting to notice. Back inside, the energy shifted. Guests who had laughed earlier were now confused. Why was Princess Amelia so deeply engaged with Keanu? Why did she seem genuinely interested? Lady Hartwell's smirk faltered. Why is she wasting her time with him? She hissed to no one in particular, but the room had noticed. Other guests began whispering, not about Keanu's audacity, but his calm presence. One woman whispered, "He hasn't said a single unkind word. Not once." It was a quiet revelation. In a sea of vanity and veiled insults, one man had held his ground with grace. Suddenly, Keanu wasn't just a Hollywood actor in a tux. He was a symbol of dignity. And the very crowd that had dismissed him was now feeling something unexpected. Respect. Just as the atmosphere reached a quiet hum, the grand hall doors opened with ceremonial flair. Hush fell. Prince William had arrived, dressed in his royal military uniform. He entered not with pomp, but with purpose. He greeted guests with a nod, but his eyes scanned the room quickly, searching. They stopped at the balcony. With confident steps, William crossed the ballroom. Guests stepped aside, murmuring in confusion. Where was he going? Lady Hartwell's eyes widened. Surely he's not going to. But he was. The future King of England walked past dignitaries and foreign royalty, right toward Keanu Reeves. On the balcony, Keanu and Amelia turned as William approached. "Keanu," the prince said, extending his hand with a warm smile. "It's an honor." And with that, the room held its breath. The atmosphere in the ballroom shifted dramatically. Guests who once scoffed now stood in stunned silence. Prince William clasped Keanu's hand firmly, then placed his other hand gently on Keanu's shoulder. "I've long admired your humility," the prince said sincerely. "Your actions off-screen have impacted more lives than many here would care to admit." Keanu, visibly moved, nodded. "Thank you, sir. That means more than you know." Amelia beamed beside them. She could see what the world often overlooked, that true royalty wasn't defined by bloodlines or crowns, but by integrity and kindness. Then William turned to the crowd. "I hope everyone here realizes," he said, his voice carrying through the hall, "that honor doesn't wear a title, it wears character." The words struck like lightning. Faces flushed. A few guests looked away, but others began to nod. Their assumptions unraveled. Lady Hartwell, now fuming and humiliated, tried to recover her composure. She stepped forward with her signature laugh, forced and faltering. "Oh, we were just having a little fun," she said, addressing William, "just teasing the man of the hour." But her tone lacked the charm it once carried. The prince's gaze turned toward her, measured, calm, but unmistakably disappointed. "Mocking kindness is never fun, Lady Hartwell," he said. "It's cowardice dressed in pearls." Her smile faded. The weight of the room turned with him. The whispers now were not of Keanu, but of her. The mighty had fallen, not with scandal, but with a single sentence. She quietly stepped back, her status crumbling in real time. It was a reminder to all. Cruelty might gain attention, but character earns respect. As the night continued, the host of the gala stepped onto the stage. The orchestra softened. It was time for the Humanity in Action Award, the highest honor of the evening. The presenter began to speak. "Tonight, we celebrate not only talent, but the quiet acts that make the loudest difference." The crowd straightened. Names were whispered. And then came the announcement. This year's recipient is Mr. Keanu Reeves. A gasp rippled through the room. Keanu looked stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief, but Amelia gently took his arm, guiding him toward the stage. As he stood under the spotlight, the applause grew thunderous. It wasn't for a movie role. It wasn't about fame. It was about who he had chosen to be every day. Kind, generous, grounded. He accepted the award with a simple bow, then spoke softly. "Kindness is free, so why not spend it generously?" Later in the evening, as golden champagne flutes clinked and music resumed, Prince William raised a glass. "I'd like to offer a toast," he said, looking toward Keanu, "to the man who reminded us all that humility is the finest suit one can wear." Laughter and cheers followed. Keanu chuckled modestly, raising his own glass. Princess Amelia leaned closer and whispered, "You've changed the room tonight." He looked around. People were different now. Conversations had softened. Smiles were more genuine. And even Lady Hartwell, though now silent in a corner, seemed deep in thought. This wasn't just about an award. It was about awareness. A ripple effect started by one man's refusal to stoop to cruelty. Kindness, it seemed, was contagious. As the gala drew to a close, guests began filing out under the starlit sky. Keanu stood at the palace entrance, once again alone. No paparazzi, no fanfare, just a man slipping quietly into the night. Amelia found him just before he left. "Will I see you again?" she asked. He smiled gently. "I'm not hard to find. Just follow the kindness." She laughed, then hugged him, genuinely without pretense. As he stepped into the black car, she watched him go, knowing this evening would be remembered for decades. Not because a movie star had walked the red carpet, but because a man reminded the world that grace under fire is the truest form of royalty. The car disappeared into the London streets, and in the distance, the palace clock chimed midnight, marking the end of a night that changed everything.